I watched her face as she opened the box, that smug smile, those perfectly manicured nails, the way she glanced around the room to make sure everyone was watching her special moment. "A gift, Elena, you shouldn't have," Naomi said, her voice dripping with fake sympathy, "especially after everything that's happened." The entire room went quiet. Daniel's parents, his brother, our friends, all eyes on us. I said nothing, just nodded slightly. She expected jewelry. Maybe the diamond bracelet Daniel had given me on our 10th anniversary that she'd always commented on. Something she could parade around as proof that she'd won. When the lid came off, her smile faltered. Inside was a small USB drive and a sealed envelope with Daniel's handwriting. For Naomi, to be opened in front of witnesses. Her hands trembled as she broke the seal. I knew what was inside. I'd watched the video Daniel recorded a week before the accident. I'd read his final message to her. "What is this?" she whispered, unfolding the note. I finally spoke. "My husband had a message for you. He wanted everyone to hear it." The color drained from her face as she began reading. Then came the scream. "But to understand how we got here, we need to go back to the morning everything changed. The last perfect morning." That's how I think of it now. Daniel had kissed me goodbye, his coffee breath mingling with mint toothpaste. He'd made blueberry pancakes, and there was still batter on his Harvard Business School t-shirt. "See you tonight, gorgeous," he'd said, grabbing his keys. "Dinner at Carlucci's? 8 o'clock? I remember nodding, distracted by work emails, not even looking up properly. If I'd known it was our last moment together, I would have dropped everything. I would have memorized his face more carefully. The call came at 2:17 p.m. A truck driver fell asleep at the wheel, crossed the median. They said Daniel died instantly. Hours later, I stood in a cold room, identifying my husband's body. His face peaceful but wrong somehow, the tiny scar above his eyebrow from a childhood bike accident, the silver at his temples that had appeared last winter. "Is this your husband, Mrs. Moore?" the attendant asked. I nodded, unable to form words, unable to understand how the man who'd made me breakfast that morning was now lying motionless under harsh fluorescent lights. "I'm so sorry for your loss," the man said, but I barely heard him. All I could think was, we never made it to Carlucci's. 3 weeks after the funeral, I finally forced myself to pack up Daniel's things. His sister Jen came to help, bringing boxes and takeout food I couldn't taste. "You don't have to do this now," she'd insisted, watching me stare blankly at his closet. "I need something to do," I replied. The grief counselor had suggested small tasks, something about creating order amid chaos. We started with his clothes, each folded shirt holding his scent, then his desk, bills, papers, old greeting cards I'd given him. That's when I found it, a second phone tucked in the back of his desk drawer. "Did Daniel have a work phone?" Jen asked, seeing my confused expression. I shook my head, my heart suddenly pounding as I clicked the power button. No password, just messages, hundreds of them, all from Naomi, my best friend since college. "Miss you already. Last night was incredible. Your wife has no idea how to handle a man like you. Can't wait to feel you inside me again." Messages going back over a year, photos, videos. The phone slipped from my hand, clattering against the hardwood floor. "Elena?" Jen's voice sounded far away. "She was my bridesmaid," was all I could say before the screaming started. After finding the phone, I became a detective in my own marriage. Every night after work, I searched our apartment for clues, for any sign that would make sense of this betrayal. In Daniel's cloud storage, I found a folder labeled insurance documents. It wasn't insurance papers, it was them. Together. In our home. Naomi wearing my bathrobe in my kitchen, drinking from Daniel's favorite mug, the one I'd given him when we first moved in together. Her smiling at the camera from our bed. Our bed. There was one of her sitting at my vanity, trying on my perfume, another of her wearing a necklace Daniel had given me for our anniversary. It wasn't just the affair, it was the invasion. The mockery. The final photo showed Naomi holding up my framed wedding photo, giving it the middle finger. Daniel must have taken it. They must have laughed about it together. My stomach heaved. I barely made it to the bathroom, retching until nothing remained. When I looked in the mirror afterward, I didn't recognize myself. My eyes were hollow, my skin gray. But something else was there too. A hardness that hadn't existed before. I wiped my mouth, straightened my shoulders, and returned to the computer. I needed to know everything. The call from the lawyer came exactly 1 month after Daniel's death. "Mrs. Moore, we've encountered a situation regarding your husband's estate. A Miss Naomi Weller has submitted what appears to be an updated will." My knuckles went white around the phone. "What?" "The document names her as co-beneficiary to most of Mr. Moore's assets. It's dated 3 months ago." "That's impossible," I said, though after what I'd discovered, nothing seemed impossible anymore. "We'll need to verify its authenticity, of course, but I wanted to notify you immediately." I was still standing in the same spot, phone in hand, when the doorbell rang an hour later. Naomi stood there, dressed in black like she was still in mourning, oversized sunglasses hiding her eyes. "We need to talk, Elena," she said, pushing past me into the apartment. My apartment. She looked around, touching things, Daniel's books, our wedding photo, as if surveying what would soon be partially hers. "This is awkward," she finally said, removing her glasses. "But I think you should know that Daniel and I had something special." I said nothing. "We were planning a life together," she continued. "I know it's hard to hear, but you were just the wife. I was his future." 2 days after Naomi's visit, I went to Daniel's office to collect his personal items. His company had been patient, but they needed his space cleared. His assistant, Rebecca, had been crying. Her eyes were red-rimmed as she handed me a cardboard box of his belongings. "He was the best boss I ever had," she said, watching me take his nameplate, his favorite pen, the stupid desk toy that clicked when you tilted it. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. The grief felt fresh again, surrounded by his work life, a realm where he'd spent most of his waking hours, yet one I knew so little about. As I turned to leave, Rebecca touched my arm. "Wait," she whispered, glancing toward the main office area. She slipped a sealed envelope from her desk drawer. "Daniel left this with me about a week before the accident. He said if anything ever happened to him, I should give it to you. Only you." The envelope was heavy, sealed with wax like something from another century. My hands trembled as I opened it in my car. Inside was a single handwritten note. "Elena, if you're reading this, something has gone wrong. Don't trust Naomi. Not yet. There's more you need to know. Storage unit number 247, Westlake Secure Storage. Key enclosed. I'm sorry. I love you." The storage facility smelled of concrete and dust. My footsteps echoed as I followed the numbered signs. 243, 245, 247. The key slid perfectly into the lock. Inside was a single banker's box. Back home, I opened it carefully. On top was a manila envelope containing another key, smaller for a safety deposit box, and an account number for First National Bank. Beneath that was a handwritten list titled simply, "What Naomi Did." My eyes scanned the page, my breath catching with each line. "Threatened to tell you about the Marcus & Co. accounting error. Blackmailed me over the Sanderson contract. Demanded $25,000 for emotional damages. Threatened to destroy our marriage if I didn't leave you." There were more items, each more disturbing than the last. The final line simply read, "Flash drive contains everything." At the bottom of the box was a small silver flash drive, labeled with a single word, "Proof." I held it in my palm, this tiny object that seemed to weigh 1,000 pounds. Whatever was on this drive had been important enough for Daniel to hide away. Important enough that he'd created a contingency plan for me to find it if he died. My hands shook as I slipped it into my pocket. What darkness was I about to uncover? The flash drive contained dozens of audio files. I plugged in my headphones and pressed play on the first one. Dated 14 months ago. "I know what you're doing, Naomi." Daniel's voice, tired, stressed. "I'm not doing anything you don't want, Danny." Her voice was syrupy sweet with an edge I'd never heard before. "This needs to stop. I love my wife." A laugh. "Do you really think Elena would still love you if she knew about the Sanderson account? If she knew you were the one who cooked those books?" My breath caught. The Sanderson account was a major client of Daniel's firm. There had been no indication of any problems. That was a mistake, and you know it. The error was caught and fixed. After you falsified reports for 3 months. That's called fraud, Danny. Prison time. Your fancy career over. Your perfect life with perfect Elena. Poof. Another file, dated a month later. "I need more time, Naomi. Time isn't what I want, and you know it. Leave her or I tell everyone what you did. Your call." File after file revealed the same pattern. Naomi threatening to expose Daniel's professional mistakes, ones he'd apparently corrected, but could still damage his career. Her leveraging those mistakes to force him into an affair. He sounded more desperate with each recording. Trapped. Afraid. He wasn't having an affair. He was being blackmailed. The final recording was different, dated just 2 weeks before the accident. Daniel's voice was thick with tears. I'm making this recording because I don't know what else to do anymore. Naomi has threatened to destroy everything if I don't leave Elena and marry her instead. A pause, the sound of papers shuffling. I've prepared a letter for Naomi, a final message. If you're watching this, Elena, it means something has happened to me, and you've found the evidence. My heart pounded as Daniel continued. I should have told you everything from the beginning. About the accounting error, about Naomi's threats. I was a coward, and I've paid for it every day. But I need you to know I never stopped loving you. Not for a single moment. He took a shuddering breath. The letter I've written for Naomi contains my confession. It details everything she's done. It also includes her explicit threats of blackmail, recorded with her knowledge. If she ever tries to claim any part of our life together, give her this letter, but only then. Because if she opens this, she's ruined herself. His voice hardened. She's left me no choice, and now I'm leaving her none. The recording ended with Daniel sobbing quietly. I sat in the dark, tears streaming down my face, feeling his presence more strongly than I had since his death. My husband had been trapped, yes, but he'd found a way out for me. I didn't scream. I didn't call Naomi and confront her. I didn't post anything on social media or tell our mutual friends what I'd discovered. Instead, I made coffee. I took a shower. I put on a suit I hadn't worn since Daniel's funeral. Then I made a list of my own. First call, Daniel's estate lawyer, a different one from the firm that had contacted me about Naomi's updated will. I need a forensic document examiner, I explained. The best one you know. Second call, a private investigator recommended by my father years ago. I need everything on Naomi Weller. Financial records, phone records, social media history, everything. Third call, my boss. I need another week off, I said. Family matters. That night, I sat at Daniel's desk, organizing every piece of evidence into clear chronological order. The recordings, the photos, the transactions showing money moving from our joint account to Naomi's over the past year. My grief was still there, a hollow ache beneath my ribs, but something else burned alongside it now. A clear, cold determination. Naomi thought she'd won. She thought she would take my husband's money, our home, his legacy. She had no idea what was coming. Dr. Eliza Kaplan had examined question documents for the FBI for 20 years before starting her private practice. She studied the updated will through her magnifying glass, her face impassive. The signature is problematic, she finally said, pointing to subtle details only an expert would notice. The pressure points are inconsistent with your husband's known signature samples. The terminal strokes show hesitation, and there's evidence of guidelines that were later erased. She looked up at me. In my professional opinion, this signature was forged. Not by an amateur, but not by a forensic expert either. Someone who had access to multiple samples of the original signature and practiced extensively. My attorney nodded, taking detailed notes. That's what we suspected. There's more, Dr. Kaplan continued. The notary stamp? I called the office. The notary whose name appears here left the state 6 months ago. Whoever did this didn't do their research properly. For the first time since Daniel's death, I felt my lips curve into something resembling a smile. We'll need your official report, my attorney said. You'll have it tomorrow, Dr. Kaplan replied, carefully placing the document back into its protective sleeve. And I'm willing to testify if necessary. As we left her office, my attorney squeezed my shoulder. This is good, Elena. Really good. 3 days later, my phone buzzed with notifications, friends sending me links, messages asking if I was okay. Naomi had posted photos on Instagram. She was at our lake house, Daniel's sanctuary where he wrote, fished, disconnected from the world, the home he'd inherited from his grandfather. She lounged on our deck, drank wine from our glasses, used our boat. New beginnings. Blessed, lake house healing, read the caption. Inside, I burned. That house held our memories. Daniel teaching me to fish, stargazing on the dock, the weekend we painted the kitchen together, laughing as we got more paint on ourselves than the walls. My phone rang. Daniel's mother, her voice shaking with anger. Elena, have you seen? That woman is in Daniel's grandfather's home. How dare she? How is this possible? I'm handling it, I assured her, my voice calmer than I felt. Please trust me. After we hung up, I didn't allow myself to react. I simply downloaded the photos, added them to my evidence file, and forwarded everything to my attorney. She's making this almost too easy, he replied. That night, I stood in front of my bathroom mirror, looking at my reflection. The hollow-eyed ghost from weeks ago was gone. In her place was someone stronger, someone with purpose. Just keep digging your hole, Naomi, I whispered. Just keep digging. The insurance company called on a Tuesday. Mrs. Moore, we've completed our review of your husband's policy. The $2 million benefit will be transferred to your account within 3 business days. I nearly dropped the phone. What policy? The representative sounded confused. Your husband's private life insurance policy. It was separate from his employer-provided coverage. He set it up last year with you as the sole beneficiary. Our condolences on your loss. Daniel had never mentioned a second policy. Then again, there was a lot he hadn't told me, some to protect me, some to protect himself. 3 hours later, my attorney called. Naomi Weller has filed a claim against the insurance payout, he said without preamble. She's claiming she and Daniel were engaged to be married and that he intended to change the beneficiary to her. That's ridiculous, I said. We were still married. It is ridiculous, he agreed, and it will fail. But more importantly, she's just committed insurance fraud. It's a felony, Elena. She submitted a falsified document as proof of their engagement. Same handwriting issues as the will. I leaned against the wall, suddenly understanding Daniel's final plan. She's not just trying to steal from me, I said slowly. She's creating a legal record of her crimes. Exactly, my attorney replied. Every move she makes, she's digging her grave deeper. The coffee shop was crowded, but I spotted Julia immediately. We'd been close once, before she and Daniel had a falling out 3 years ago. I never understood why they stopped speaking. Thank you for meeting me, I said, sliding into the booth. Julia's eyes were cautious. I was surprised to hear from you, especially now. I need to understand what happened between you and Daniel. She looked down at her mug. It was Naomi. What do you mean? 3 years ago at your New Year's party? Naomi cornered Daniel in your kitchen. I walked in on them. She had her hands all over him and he was pushing her away. When she saw me, she started crying, claiming Daniel had been harassing her. My blood ran cold. That was when you were pregnant. Julia nodded. Daniel begged me not to tell you, said you had enough stress with the pregnancy. Then, after you lost the baby. She trailed off, pain flashing across her face. Naomi told everyone Daniel had come on to her and that I was covering for him. Our friends believed her. I couldn't handle the drama and pulled away. Did you see them together again, after that? Julia hesitated. Once, about a year ago, at the Hargrove wedding. I saw them arguing in the parking lot. She kissed him. He pushed her away and slapped him, hard, then said something that made his face go white. The blackmail had already started, and I'd had no idea. Naomi's husband, soon-to-be ex-husband, agreed to meet me at a bar across town where none of our social circle would see us. Mark looked terrible, unshaven, bloodshot eyes, wedding ring already gone. I filed last week, he said, gulping his whiskey. Found the texts a few days after Daniel's funeral. Classy, right? My wife screwing around with your husband while we're all grieving him. I didn't correct his assumption about Daniel's willingness. Some truths weren't mine to share. How long do you think it was going on? I asked carefully. At least a year, maybe longer. He rubbed his face. You know what kills me? I fucking loved her. Would have done anything for her. But it was never enough. I nodded, understanding completely. She's always wanted what other people have, Mark continued. Your nice house, your perfect marriage, Daniel's success, my family's connections. She collects people like trophies, uses them up, throws them away. He looked at me directly. She ruins everyone she touches, Elena. As I stood to leave, he caught my wrist. Watch yourself. She's not done. Whatever she wanted from Daniel, she still wants it, and now she thinks she can get it through you. Thank you, I said, meaning it. And Mark? I'm sorry she hurt you too. He raised his glass in a bitter toast. The Daniel Moore Survivors Club, membership of 2. The GoFundMe page had over 200 donations. Memorial Garden for Daniel Moore, it read. Help us create a lasting tribute to a beloved husband, friend, and colleague. Complete with photos of Daniel, our wedding photo, photos from his company profile, created by Naomi Weller, who had already collected $23,475. Daniel's parents hadn't known about it, his brother hadn't known about it, his company hadn't authorized it, and I certainly hadn't approved it. I called the GoFundMe fraud department immediately. The organizer has no connection to the deceased's estate, I explained, my voice tight. She's fraudulently collecting funds using my husband's name and image without permission. The representative was sympathetic. We'll freeze the account pending investigation, Mrs. Moore. You'll need to provide death certificate documentation and proof you're the legal next of kin. By the time I hung up, I'd already received screenshots from friends showing Naomi's outraged Facebook post. Someone is trying to stop Daniel's memorial garden. The cruelty. The garden was his dream. My phone rang continuously. Concerned friends, Daniel's family, all confused by the conflicting stories. I texted my attorney, add theft by deception and fraud to the list. He responded immediately. Done. Also, forensic accountant found something. Money transfers from your joint account to hers, monthly. Last year. Did you authorize these? My answer was simple. Never. Another crime for the growing list. The police station smelled of coffee and industrial cleaner. Detective Ramirez reviewed the documentation I'd brought, page after page of evidence, all neatly organized and annotated by my attorney. This is comprehensive, she said, eyebrows raised as she flipped through the folder. Most people don't bring us a case this well prepared. I want to make sure it's taken seriously, I replied. She nodded, scanning the forged will, the fake insurance beneficiary form, the evidence of the fraudulent GoFundMe, the unauthorized bank transfers. The recordings are particularly damning, she said, removing her headphones after listening to samples of Naomi's blackmail. Clear evidence of extortion. Detective Ramirez leaned back in her chair, studying me. Mrs. Moore, we've definitely got something here. Multiple felonies, in fact. Forgery, fraud, wire fraud, extortion, theft by deception. She tapped the folder. This goes well beyond a civil dispute over your husband's will. What happens next? I asked. We open an investigation, interview witnesses, build the case. She gave me a measured look. These things take time. Are you prepared for that? For the public nature of criminal charges? I thought of Daniel's tearful recording, his desperate attempt to protect me, even after death. I'm prepared for whatever it takes, I said. She doesn't get to steal my husband's legacy. Detective Ramirez nodded, a hint of respect in her eyes. We've got something here, she repeated. We definitely do. The pounding on my door started at 11:42 p.m. I knew who it was before I checked the security camera. Naomi stood on my porch, mascara streaking down her face, hair disheveled. She looked nothing like the polished socialite who'd smugly informed me I was just the wife. I know you're in there, she screamed, hammering the door again. Open up, you vindictive bitch. I pressed record on my phone and opened the door, keeping the security chain in place. It's almost midnight, Naomi. What do you want? You froze the GoFundMe. You've been talking to Mark. You're trying to destroy my life. Her words slurred slightly. She'd been drinking. Please leave before I call the police. Police? She laughed bitterly. Go ahead. Call them. Tell them how you're slandering me to everyone we know. How you can't accept that Daniel loved me. I remained silent, letting her rant while my phone recorded every word. He was going to leave you for me. We were planning our life together. Everything was supposed to be mine. Goodbye, Naomi, I said calmly, closing the door as she lunged forward, hitting the security chain. This isn't over, she screamed through the door. You think you're so clever with your little investigation? You have no idea what I'm capable of. I finished the recording and immediately sent it to Detective Ramirez and my attorney. The next morning, a sheriff's deputy served Naomi with a temporary restraining order. The official will reading was scheduled for exactly 2 months after Daniel's death. The law firm's conference room was painfully formal. All dark wood and leather-bound books lining the walls. Daniel's parents sat stiffly near the head of the table, his father's hand covering his mother's. His brother Michael nodded grimly at me as I took my seat. A few college friends, his business partner, all people who had actually been part of Daniel's life. And then Naomi swept in. She wore a cream-colored suit, pearl earrings catching the light. Her hair was perfectly styled, makeup flawless. She carried herself with the confidence of someone who believed they were about to win everything. She avoided looking at me directly, instead smiling sympathetically at Daniel's parents, who turned away from her in unison. I wore simple black. No jewelry except my wedding ring. My face carefully composed into a mask of dignified grief. "Thank you all for coming," began Mr. Lowell, Daniel's longtime attorney. "Before we proceed with the reading of Daniel's last will and testament, I understand there has been some confusion regarding potentially updated documents." Naomi straightened in her chair, touching her pearls. Mr. Lowell continued, "The court has reviewed all submitted materials and has determined that only the original will, dated 3 years ago, is legally valid. All other documents presented have been rejected pending further investigation." Naomi's smile faltered, but didn't disappear. She still believed she had cards to play. She had no idea what was coming. Back to the moment I'd been preparing for since finding Daniel's hidden evidence. The small box I'd handed Naomi at the beginning of the will reading now sat open before her. On the conference room screen, Daniel's face appeared, tired, pale, but resolute. "If this recording is being played," he began, "then I'm gone, and Naomi Weller has attempted to claim she was entitled to my estate." A collective gasp filled the room. Naomi went completely still. "I, Daniel Moore, being of sound mind, make this statement freely. Any will, document, or claim naming Naomi Weller as my beneficiary is fraudulent. For the past 14 months, Naomi has been blackmailing me over a corrected accounting error." Daniel's voice grew stronger. "The USB drive contains recorded conversations documenting her extortion, threatening to destroy my career and marriage if I didn't comply with her demands." In the box, Naomi now held the letter that simply read, "You betrayed me, you betrayed her, and now everyone knows. Elena," Daniel continued on screen, his eyes filling with tears, "I'm so sorry for not being brave enough to tell you. I love you. Everything I have is yours, as we always planned." The room had gone completely silent. All eyes moved from the screen to Naomi, whose hands were shaking violently. "This is a lie," she finally whispered, but her voice lacked conviction. She knew the truth was finally exposed. "And we were only getting started." "This is a lie," Naomi finally said, crushing Daniel's letter in her fist. "He's lying. She made this up." "The recording is dated and notarized," Mr. Lowell said calmly, "as is the letter." "Play the rest," I instructed, my voice steady. A new file opened on screen. Naomi's voice filled the conference room. "I don't care about your precious career, Danny. Either you leave Elena and put me in your will, or everyone finds out what you did. Your choice." Daniel's weary voice. "The Sanderson account error was fixed. No one was hurt. Doesn't matter. Fraud is fraud. Prison time, remember? Your call. Oh, and I'll need another 10,000 this month." Several more recordings played, each more damning than the last. Naomi threatening, demanding, mocking. Color drained from her face as her own voice condemned her. She lunged for the projector cable. "Turn it off. This is all out of context." Daniel's business partner restrained her gently. "Sit down, Naomi." "There's more," I said quietly. The screen showed bank transfers, the forged will beside Daniel's genuine signature, the fraudulent GoFundMe page, the fake insurance claim. "This is a complete record of every crime Naomi Weller has committed against my husband and his estate," I explained. "The police already have copies of everything, as does the district attorney." Naomi's scream pierced the silence, raw, primal, filled with rage and terror as she realized what Daniel had done, what I had finished. The scream turned to sobs as Naomi collapsed back into her chair. "You don't understand," she gasped between heaving breaths. "He promised me we were going to be together." No one responded. Her mascara ran in black rivers down her face as she looked desperately around the room for any ally. Finding none. "He loved me," she insisted, her voice breaking. "Not her. Me." Daniel's mother stood abruptly. "How dare you," she said, her voice shaking with rage. "How dare you come here, try to steal from my son's wife, and then claim he loved you? Daniel could barely tolerate you at family gatherings." Naomi grabbed the box and hurled it across the room. The USB clattered against the wall. "This is all your fault," she shrieked at me. "You turned him against me. You turned everyone against me." Her mother, who'd been silent until now, rose and took Naomi's arm. "That's enough. We're leaving." "I'm not going anywhere. This is my moment," Daniel promised. "Now, Naomi," her mother hissed, the family embarrassment finally too much to bear. As they struggled toward the door, Mr. Lowell calmly continued. "For the record, the only valid will is dated July 12th, 3 years ago. It leaves the entirety of Daniel Moore's estate to his wife, Elena Moore." 6 months after the will reading, I sat on the deck of our lake house, my lake house now, watching the sunset paint the water gold. The legal battles were over. Naomi had been charged with multiple felonies: fraud, forgery, theft by deception, extortion. She'd accepted a plea deal rather than face trial. Her friends abandoned her. Her now ex-husband gave damning testimony about missing money from their joint accounts. Her carefully curated social media empire crumbled overnight. I'd changed too. The shell-shocked widow was gone. In her place was someone stronger, more deliberate, someone who understood both justice and mercy. Daniel's parents had finally begun to heal. We had dinner together monthly now, sharing memories without the constant ache. His brother Michael and I had grown closer. Life was gradually finding a new normal. For the first time since Daniel's death, I could see a future stretching before me. Different than planned, but still worth living. The news alert chimed as I was packing for a weekend getaway, my first real vacation since everything happened. Former socialite Naomi Weller sentenced in inheritance fraud scandal. There was her mugshot. No makeup, no designer clothes, no calculated smile for the camera. Just harsh lighting exposing every flaw she'd worked so hard to conceal. I closed the alert without reading further. Naomi had already taken up too much space in my life. Instead, I finished packing, double-checked my flight details, and took one last look around the apartment. I decided to sell it. Too many memories, both beautiful and painful. The lake house would be my home now. On my way out, I paused at the small table where I kept my favorite photo of Daniel, laughing on our honeymoon, completely unaware of the camera. I touched it briefly, the familiar ache in my chest now tempered with fondness. "You gave me the last word," I whispered, echoing his final plan. "Now I'm giving us both peace." I locked the door behind me, stepping into the bright spring morning, ready at last to write the next chapter of my story. One that would be entirely my own.